Oh no. Ugh. Go to sleep. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Look who it is. You guys haven't seen him for a while. Today's video is all about him. Well, kind of. It's about my labor and delivery, but I'm going to be interviewing him with questions you guys asked on Instagram. And I really wanted to make this video because there's not a lot of videos on the internet with like the dad's perspective on being in the delivery room. And I think he had a really good experience and did really well. So, and had like a positive, I think, experience. We'll find out. So, I'm going to ask him questions that you guys asked, and they're really, really good. And there is so many of them. If you could go back in time, is there anything you'd do differently? How did you best support me? Also, I know none of these answers, so I'm really excited to hear.
And I'm not seeing any of these questions
No.
either. So I'll do my best to answer, the best I can on the spot.
Comment below if you think you're going to see Craig crack his neck in this video at least one time. Oh, getting it out early.
I don't think there's anything I do differently. So I think how I best supported you was asking you how I can support you and doing exactly what you told me.
But what did I tell you? They don't know that.
Yeah, so I guess pretty much just like putting a lot of, what's it called?
Counter pressure.
Counter pressure every time she had a contraction. Just being right there and saying, okay, does this feel good? Do you need me to move? Or like, do you want me to rub your back? Do you want me to be honest, it's hard to like remember everything right now.
You think so? I guess it was almost 2 months ago.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but like it was all just so...
I'm going to try to not put my 2 cents in here, but I will say that I think the way that you best supported me was constantly praying over me.
Yeah, that's true too.
Because I would, like, if anybody would ask me what's the most memorable thing that you did for me, it would be that. Like, I remember you doing counter pressure, and I remember you doing that, but I don't remember anything other than you praying and like, reminding me when I said I couldn't do it that I could, and why I could, and that kind of stuff.
That's a good answer.
Okay. How did you feel when Lexi was having contractions?
At first, I think it kind of just like shifted. So at first, I really didn't like it because they were very, very painful, and like it kind of made me feel uncomfortable to see her so uncomfortable. But after a while, just reminding myself and then reminding her that like the contractions and the pain was for a reason. I guess it made me, I was more calm, and I guess as it went along, it got more exciting because they got stronger and stronger until, you know.
Dun, 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 dun. Would you prefer that I had the epidural?
Oh, that's tough. No, because I know that's ultimately what you want. I would have loved to not see you in the pain, but I think when I think back to it and like watching the birth vlog, that pain, like seeing him and then seeing that pain, I guess that correlation, there's just something beautiful about that.
Yeah.
So no.
Yeah. There's something beautiful about any way that you give birth, but I think that it was just like the rawness of it, I think, was like beautiful. Did you feel like fainting?
No.
Not even once?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I watched everything. I didn't feel like fainting one time.
Were you anxious and stressed? How did he do it without adding to my stress? That's a good question.
I didn't really feel anxious or stressed. I think the only time I did, and I'm not sure if anxious or stress is the right word, but is when you were in the bathroom, sitting on the toilet, and you were just in so much pain, and you just
I was not going to the bathroom, by the way.
No.
I was trying to get dilated.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of where I cried the most because of your pain, was when you were sitting in there, because you were just so ready to be done and you were so exhausted.
Yeah.
And I think those are really the few moments where I felt the most, I don't even know the word to describe
helpless?
it, but I just felt the most helpless, and just like my heart was the heaviest. during that time.
I remember that moment when I looked up at you and I said, I don't remember what I said, but I just kind of like collapsed on the side of the wall on the toilet, and I was like, I was so tired. Were you expecting the experience to be different than it was?
You know, she asked me leading up to it to watch birth vlogs and educate myself, and I'll be honest, I didn't. I think I maybe watched one birth vlog, and it was one of the ones that you had asked me to watch. So I didn't even know honestly what to expect. So I guess it just depends. If you're the type of person that if you see blood or you see people in excruciating pain and it does make you feel nauseous or that type of thing, you feel like you might faint, then watch it. That way you know what to expect going into it. But
I have a question for this.
Yeah.
Did you not prepare yourself in that way because you didn't want to think about it? Like you didn't want to think and see other women in that pain? So you didn't want to picture me in it?
No, I think I didn't watch it because I wanted the experience to just be mine. I didn't want to have any misconceptions going into it.
That's a good thing to say because I think I said in another video, like, have your husband watch other labor and delivery videos, but I guess in that perspective, like, that might be like the opposite of what you want to do or what you want them to experience. Yeah. Did you have any idea how hard or easy it would be to support me?
Well, I mean, I knew that it wasn't going to be a breezy night.
No.
But, I mean, I had prepared myself for it to be, a rather challenging night, but
I think it's just hard because guys don't sit around and be like, hey, this is what you should do when your wife's in labor. Like, there's no resources for guys like there are for women.
Right, and
to prepare you.
Yeah, and staying up that long is hard to begin with, so.
Yeah. Did you ever feel disgusted or grossed out, or did your instincts kind of kick in?
Disgusted or grossed out at just like the whole thing?
Uh-huh.
No.
Never once.
No.
You never felt disgusted.
Actually, I did.
Really?
Yeah.
I saw this question. I was like, he's gonna say yup, and that's gonna be sad.
And I didn't. I watched everything. Like
I know.
I was down.
I remember closing my eyes after I was pushing, or like while I was pushing, and you were looking, and I was like, oh no.
I wasn't sure if I was going, because you asked if I was going to catch him, and I knew I didn't want to do that, just because there's no way I was going to be able to do that and focus at the same time.
No, they wouldn't let you
They wouldn't let me in that situation. But once I started looking, I just couldn't stop.
Number one advice tip for soon-to-be new dad.
There's just so many. Meaning just for a new dad or in the labor delivery room?
Whatever you want to answer to. Maybe in the labor and delivery room, since that's kind of the point of this video.
Yeah. Number one tip I would say is, and this really sounds kind of cliche, I guess, but just being present in there, not thinking too much about, I wish it was I wish he was here already. Even though, at times we did think that, especially her when she was in so much pain. I think just being in the moment and really reading your wife or your significant other and her nonverbal signs to see what it is that she needs, because she's not always going to be able to tell you what she needs. So if you should know the partner that you're having a child with enough to know what she needs and when she needs it, if she's not telling you. So I think really just being in tune with that.
I don't think that's cliche at all, because in my labor and delivery vlog, you look at all the comments about you, and most of them are saying, it's so cool to see how present he was, or I'm so proud of how present he was. And I think that's not, sometimes it's not easy for dads to do, because since they feel helpless, they don't know what to do, so they do nothing. And that's not what your partner needs when you're in labor.
Yeah.
Was there any point where you got nervous and thought things weren't going like they should?
The only time I'd say that is, again, the time when we were in the bathroom, and I'm like, is this too long? Is this taking too much? Is this too hard on you? Is this there was honestly a time when we were in there, you were so exhausted and you were falling asleep against the wall on the toilet that I thought, I'm not sure she's going to get through this without some type of intervention. So I didn't think anything was going wrong in the sense of complications. I just wasn't sure if your body was going to allow you to do it naturally.
But you never said that to me.
No, I never said that.
You never said that. And you never made me feel that way.
Yeah.
I think even though you thought that, you like encouraged me to keep going.
Yeah.
Because you knew that I didn't want an epidural, and I don't even think you asked me at any point. Did you ask me at any point if I wanted to get it?
I don't think so.
No. But the doctors did recommend some types of non-medical interventions, like if you see in my birth vlog, they like did the stretching with the mineral oil. I refused that for a while. And then I remember looking at you and asking you, like, what do you think? And a couple different scenarios where I was like, what do you think? And you encouraged me that, like, do what you think is best, but, like, that could be helpful. Did you expect Lexi to be as amazing as she was in delivery? Hey, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, she's strong, she's tough. When she sets her mind to something, it's like, I don't know, she can do anything, so I'm not surprised.
Was there a moment that you were blown away or not sure how you should react?
No.
There wasn't a moment where you were like, I'm not sure what to do in this situation? No?
No, I think that I just kind of like prayed the whole time for just to remain calm. So there really wasn't a situation where I was like, I'm not sure what to do. I'm not saying I knew what to do at every single point, but I didn't freak out at any point.
What were you thinking? How did you feel when you saw baby's head crowning?
Such a big relief. Like when I first saw his head, I was like, okay, like we're at the last stretch, let's go. And I think that's kind of when like my energy picked back up and started kind of like cheering.
You can tell that
more.
in the vlog too.
Yeah.
Did you see his head for the first time when he was still in there or when he was actually crowning?
It was before he was crowning. It was like...
Because I remember Megan saying that like every time I pushed, she could see his head.
Yeah.
Which was so frustrating.
Yeah. So you could just see like just a very small surface area of his head.
Yeah. Okay. If you guys are watching my postpartum video, then you know I talked about where they had to reach in all the way and get all the membranes out and how like I kind of have PTSD from that. And so this question is, what were your thoughts when they were removing the membranes?
I was like...
Did you just burp?
I was like, are you kidding me? We just went through all this. You just went through all this pain. And now you're doing something that hurts even worse.
Yeah.
And like it was frustrating, but I knew that it would cause harm to you if they didn't, so...
I remember them doing that, and I look up at you, and you were crying, and you, like, shook your head, like, and I don't know what you meant by shaking your head, but, like, in that, when I remember you doing it, it was, like, that had to happen, you're fine, like, it's gonna be okay type of thing, and that, like, was reassuring to me, that you weren't looking at me being in pain after I went through all of that, and that, like, traumatizing experience of them having to do that, and not being like, suck it up, that's one more thing you had to go through. You like felt the pain.
Yeah. No, because...
Like, as it was happening to me also.
Yeah. Because you were... I mean, it was like a different kind of pain.
Yeah.
You could tell by your reaction.
Yeah. How did the doula work with you, help comfort you? Like, did you work together?
Yeah, so, I mean, our doula was pretty cool. She was constantly talking to me, reminding me to eat or get a drink of water. She would step in for me. If I was doing counter pressure for a while, she'd step in and do it. There was actually two. There ended up being two after a certain point. She would do other things. I don't know, what was that thing called?
Rebozo sifting?
Yeah. Just doing things that that's what she's there for, and she's great at those things. So just kind of, I wanted to be there to do them as well, but, she is an expert in those things. So I think switching on and out, like having her there was a huge help. That way, it wasn't just me, the entire time.
Yeah, you would have not been able to do that.
Yeah. So like one of the times you were on the bed, I think you were bent over the bed, and was Jasmine? Not Jasmine.
Yeah. Jody.
Jody. She was massaging your back while I went over and ate part of the sandwich your dad got me.
I remember looking up and thinking it was you doing, like, massaging my back, and looking up and seeing you eating a sandwich, and I was like, oh, okay, it's not you.
And I think that that's important too, is not to feel like, if it's not about to happen and you're just going through the labor, if someone's there, don't feel bad as the dad to step aside, eat something, take a drink, so that you stay healthy and you're less likely to pass out if you have food and drink in your body.
Yeah, that's a really good piece of advice. What were some unexpected emotions you had to deal with?
I was getting frustrated with, and I'm sure you were too, and she was just doing her job at the nurse with the baby monitor. So they had to keep him on the monitor to make sure that, like, his heart rate was good, and it was all for valid reasons. But, like, she would be in the middle of a contraction, bent over the bed, and the nurse would be, like, reaching around me and reaching under her to try to move the monitor up in the middle of a contraction. And I just, I wanted to say something, but I didn't. But, like, I think I said something at one point. I said, all right, just, like, let her finish the contraction or something at one point. Just not knowing how to deal with that frustration because, like, it's for the baby's health.
Yeah.
But then again, just get through the contraction and then you can move the monitor.
Yeah. Even though the purpose of her moving that during the contraction was to make sure he was tolerating them okay. So it was, like, a really hard situation because that was probably one of the most frustrating parts of my entire labor and delivery while I was in labor, was this nurse constantly touching me when I was trying to, like, focus in. And I understand that it was purposeful, but I think kind of the way that she was doing it was very, like, unnecessary, and the way, like, how much she was touching me was, like, not really necessary, I would say. Was it scary when I went into labor? We had kind of unique circumstances.
Yeah, no, I don't think it was scary because really up until maybe 15 minutes before it happened, I thought it was still going to be a scheduled thing, that you were just kind of having some contractions, but once those contractions up in the room started getting worse and worse, it kind of slowly came to me like, all right, this might happen. And then when they came in and said, we're moving you down.
Well, because my water broke.
Yeah. So this happened kind of suddenly, so I didn't really have anticipation of going to bed thinking, okay, the next morning we're going to have a baby and all this stuff. So since it kind of hit suddenly.
Do you think the way you see women changed after seeing the process of pregnancy and delivery?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like there's no way that it can't. Just knowing that, women go through that to bear children for us.
Yeah.
And it does show you truly how amazing the human body is, especially a woman's body,
How has your relationship changed with God since experiencing labor and delivery with me?
I think maybe not necessarily changed, but they always say that once you have a child and you have that unconditional love for the child, and then you think, okay, if I can love this child so much, how much more must God love me? And it just, to feel that in person, it does kind of change your view of love once you not just hear it, but also experience it.
This is a good question. What was the most important thing you packed with you to take to the room?
Well, first was water, even though they had water there, but I would say so that you're not going back and forth, like bring a couple water bottles with you so you're not leaving the room, because I had to leave the room to go fill it and then come back in.
Or just, like, drink water in general, because you can always ask, like, the nurse to go get you water.
True. I didn't bring food. Her dad had to pick food up for me. So definitely bring food, chapstick, and plenty of device chargers for whatever it is. So phone, iPad, whatever.
Who uses iPods anymore?
There's still out there.
Did you feel the same victory as Lexi when Azariah was born, or do you think it was different?
I think the same, but also different. So we obviously both felt the same victory of, like, everything we just went through is done. He's here, and we did it. But then again, I think mine was different because she had just been in a hospital for 3 months. She was on bed rest, and she went through the surgery. And so I'm sure there was maybe even a step above, maybe an elevated step of victory for you because you're the one that did went through all that to deliver him, and you're the one that went through the surgery and did everything. So I think it would be taking away from what she did if I said I felt the same level of victory, but I would say it's pretty close because, I had to watch, my wife go through all that every step of the way. So, pretty close to the same victory, but I would say maybe not.
I don't think it's wrong to say you had the same victory. Yeah, I might have carried him and had to have the surgery and go through all that, but, you can't take away from you and what you had to go through.
Right.
It's definitely not harder, but it's still so hard that you had to watch all that and, you couldn't do anything except be there.
Yeah.
How did it feel to see your wife exude so much strength as she brought your son into the world?
Well, I felt very proud. When she was pushing, she pushed for 3 hours, and time after time, she would just push, and her body was so tired because she hadn't slept in forever because she'd been sleeping in a hospital bed, and I kept just rooting for her, quietly in my head. I did outward too, but a lot more just in my head, just saying just keep going, just keep pushing, and I don't know. It just really showed, how strong you are and how much you're willing to fight because your body didn't want to do any of that,
If I have one thing to say about that, if you're a guy watching this video, I think one of the most important things that you can say to your wife while she's in labor or after she has your baby is how proud you are of her. Because it's really, just uplifting and encouraging and exactly what you need to hear after you just went through all of that, to hear that your husband is proud of you for however you brought the baby into the world and fighting so hard for the baby, and to have, if you can, have the delivery that you want. So, yeah. Okay. Were you squeamish about looking down there?
No.
You kind of already answered that question.
Yeah.
Did it change the way that you saw that part of my body at all?
No, I don't think so.
Except maybe, holy crap, how did it get that wide?
Yeah.
How's it that big?
Very, it's just mind-blowing that happens. Yeah.
Yes.
I think that that when you think about it, at first, right, before you have a child, you're I'm not sure if I want to see that. But then when you watch it happen, you're like, oh my gosh, this actually happens? So it just kind of takes away from any part of you that might be oh, that's gross.
Yeah. This is a great question, but kind of similar. Did seeing a vaginal delivery have an effect on the way you feel about sex?
No.
No?
In a negative way, absolutely not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's a huge question that women want to know.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I shouldn't shrug it off it's yeah.
No big deal.
Yeah, because you're right. I think that as a guy, I guess I've wondered that a lot too,
Would it change the way you feel about sex?
Would it change the way?
Yeah. It's a very valid question to ask.
Yeah. After a while, it's just going to get back to like it was before, honestly. So if your husband, you think that's something he's worried about, or you're a guy and you're watching this, there's something you're worried about, God made the body to do that. So it's not one and done. He wouldn't make that way so you don't want to reproduce again.
Right. Or else nobody would reproduce.
Yeah.
That's a very valid thing to say. Obviously things are different, and I talked about that in my postpartum video. Things are not, as tight as they used to be immediately, because you just had a baby a month ago, or 6 weeks ago, or however long it is before you guys have sex again, but it's it's not something that you should be afraid of.
Yeah,
especially if you're a guy.
Maybe,
a girl.
Maybe you shouldn't say it goes back to exactly how it was. Things do change, but not necessarily for the negative. It's not oh my gosh, this is never going to be the same again. It's just
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you went through, your mind kind of changes with the way that your wife's body changes. Yeah. I guess is a good way to explain it. How did you feel when you got to hold him for the first time? This is one of, like, that part of the labor and delivery video is one of my favorite videos, where you're holding him and you're just closing your eyes and, like, smelling him, like, taking it all in. That's
kind of it. Like, I was just kind of taking it all in, and I really just did a quick, like, recap in my head of, like, the last 3 months of, you know, sitting in the hospital bed and watching TV and looking down at your belly and feeling a cake, and just kind of, like, recapping that real quick. And then taking it into the moment of just, like, seeing him and just being so joyful, you know, of, like, he's here and everything, all the hard work that we've put in.
And he's beautiful and he's squishy.
Healthy.
Would you have felt hurt if Lexi didn't want your comfort for a period of time, like if she asked for space?
I think that's a really good question because... And you never did, I don't think. Ask me.
I never, like, I wanted you there.
Yeah, but I don't think it's necessarily wrong for a woman to say that, because I can't imagine. I'm sure it's very overstimulating for you in that moment, and so I can't speak that out of experience, but I can imagine putting, like, as a dad, putting so much effort and just, like, everything you have into making sure she feels good and she feels present. And maybe if that's not something you're prepared for her to say, that you might feel kind of rejected. So that's a very good question, and I think that that's something that you should consider beforehand. Like, okay, if she does need space, I need to be fine with just stepping back for a second, and that would be a good time to eat, drink, or just kind of go to the bathroom, or, you know, just kind of clear your own head so that you can come back in and...
Yeah. Did you think it was worth it, being in the room?
Yes. Like, I wouldn't have had any other way. And, like, honestly, like, thinking about me not being there, like, if I got trapped at work or there was a snowstorm that night. So, like, if I was on my way up later and I got trapped, like, it just makes me sick thinking about it.
Yeah.
Were you aware of the time passing, or did time fly to you when you were in labor? I cannot believe how fast time went.
Really?
Like...
That's definitely just how he felt.
Right, I'm sure it was different for you, but, like, I remember looking up, and so, what, we got up to the labor and delivery at, like, 10, right?
10?
No, your mom...
6.
Yeah, sorry. Your mom got there at 10:30. Yeah. 10:30. So we got to the labor and delivery room on 6. Next thing I knew, her mom was texting me saying she was there at 10:30.
And my mom lives 3.5 hours away.
I remember looking at the time a few times to update people on how dilated you were. So I remember, so we went there at 6. Her mom texted me at 10:30 that they were here. I looked at the clock again at midnight, because that's when you were 8 centimeters. Because I went to text Aubrey and my dad that you were 8 centimeters. The next thing I know, it's like 3:30 and you're pushing. And I'm just like... And honestly, I'm surprised I remember those times that I looked at it, because it just went so fast. And I was like, we just spent 12 hours. I just stayed up all night. We've been up for 30 hours. I can't believe that just went by that fast. Yes, in the moment, maybe there were times where like, oh, it's going so slow, but overall, it flew.
Was the doula worth it? Was the doula worth it from the dad perspective?
So I can tell you from dad perspective and from the perspective of somebody who controls finances, yes. Like, at first, I was nervous about it because I didn't know what a doula was. And while it's not super cheap, it's not outrageous, but it's not cheap. It's definitely an investment. Yeah. But it's definitely the right investment, especially in our circumstance, since we were away from home.
Yeah. And
I don't know, she wasn't like super knowledgeable in spina bifida, but just with everything, with you being in the hospital and everything, that added comfort was huge. So whether locally or, far away, if you can build a relationship with that person, then it's definitely worth it.
What is your best piece of advice for dads going in the delivery room?
it's not necessarily just like a best piece of advice, maybe just like a statement. Everything that you do as a dad and as a husband in there is just showing you love. So if you focus on, kind of back to what I said earlier, focus on seeing you and what you need from me. I mean, that's what showing your partner love is seeing that there's something that you need and then me fulfilling that need. So really just staying calm and just being there, not focusing too much on, am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? Because if you make one small mistake or you don't do counter pressure right, like one time, like whether she tells you and you fix it or like she's not, most likely that's not what your partner's going to remember. So just not focusing and getting trapped and wrapped on doing things perfectly or what you see in the video. So that's why, another reason why, like, I wanted to do my own thing. I knew that if I just stayed calm and I prayed and I was connected with God and I was going to be connected with you, like everything was going to be fine.
Yeah.
So not worrying too much about doing every single little thing right, just being present and being calm, because if you're nervous or anything like that, or you get too anxious, I think it'll take away from the experience of everything.
I have two things to say to end this. One thing, if you are a dad in the delivery room, something that I would recommend that you not do is make your wife feel like the amount of time that she's in labor is a burden. Like, she has no control over that, and if she, like me, chooses to have an epidural-free birth, medication-free birth, it might take long. It might take long with any kind of birth. So do not, under any circumstances, make her feel like the time that she is in labor is a burden, or you're frustrated or you're annoyed, because she, I promise you, is way more frustrated than you are. And second of all, if you do something that she doesn't necessarily like and she snaps at you or says something in a way that is not like the most positive or like not like constructive criticism, it kind of sounds, snappy or mean. Don't take that as in like, all right, I'm done, I'm not going to do anything. She's in the most amount of pain that she's ever been in her life, and like that's not a direct, like that's not a reflection of like you doing something wrong. It's a reflection of how much pain she's in, and just like collect yourself, do something different, ask her if you can do something different, or just take a step back and just be there for her. That's what I would say. Yeah,
no, that's really good. Kind of like leave your reactive emotions at the door. So if you know that, and this comes back to, again, like communication, just talking to each other about it. If you guys are pregnant and you're coming in the last month of your pregnancy, you need to have conversations with each other about what you expect from each other before you walk into that room. If you know that sometimes you guys struggle with tempers or reacting or snapping, check that out the door and say, listen, okay, I know that women are very emotional when they're in labor. So if you know that's you and maybe your feelings get hurt when your wife or your husband snap, you guys, I mean, especially the men, I'm really talking at the men. Come on, you can do better than that. Leave those reactive emotions at the door, because
keep an open mind the entire time. Yep. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it and you liked hearing Craig's perspective on my labor and delivery, then make sure to give the video a thumbs up. I think this is going to be a really helpful video for women and men. If you want to encourage them to watch this video with you, then I suggest that you do, because I think that it's helpful to hear his perspective. So, yep, remember to love God, love yourself, and love people, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.